What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. And yes, the title is true. The Senate has passed the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. So welcome to your third stimulus check update, stimulus package update, and news report for Saturday, March 6th. Yes, the Senate has finally gone through the over 24-hour debate, passing amendment after amendment after amendment, and technically they rejected amendment after amendment after amendment, but this is finally done. We've had a vote and it has passed. So here's where we're at. Right now, the Senate will then send this $1.9 trillion stimulus package back to the House because they did make some changes. Now, a lot of these amendments didn't need to have a tiebreaker vote in them simply because Republicans lost a senator yesterday afternoon. They actually had to say goodbye to Senator Dan Sullivan from Alaska because he had to go home for a family emergency. So because of that, it actually made a Democratic majority of 50 to 49 votes, which made a lot of this stuff happen much quicker. So what we do know right now, and what I can tell you, is that Republicans proposed a handful of amendments. Now, almost every single one of these amendments were rejected by Democrats, but like many of you have even asked, why do we pay these people to pretty much put our bills together, run this country when they can't agree on anything? Well, here's what actually happened. There was an amendment last night that actually it was this morning, not last night. There was an amendment that pretty much gave the opportunity to strip senators from their salaries if they didn't do their jobs correctly. But as you can imagine, this bill was rejected. This was actually rejected. It was something that was mainly rejected by Democrats. It was proposed by a Republican. Well, it was rejected 48 to 51. So this didn't pass. But this was not the only amendment that was proposed. The main changes to this bill that you probably even care about. Okay, I'm going to talk about these three main changes because these are the few changes that are being made simply because these are the things that you and I are going to be impacted from. Now, there's a lot of different changes to this bill. There's a bunch of different amendments. Some passed, some didn't. But here's what we know. First, it started off very early yesterday. That's where all the changes came. If you watch my video from later last night talking about the stimulus checks are coming, they are coming. It's going to happen very soon. And that was one of the changes that was made. First, we know the very first amendment that was proposed was by Senator Bernie Sanders for an additional $15 minimum wage provision. Well, this was actually rejected by all Republicans and an additional 8 Democrats. So yes, this bill will not be passing. The likelihood of a $15 federal minimum wage increase going through reconciliation or happening during a pandemic is not going to happen. Many Democrats and every single Republican voted against this. Now, there are some that do propose they go back to the drawing board and come up with a compromise $15 minimum wage provision, something around the $10 to $12 mark. We will see what happens there. That would most likely be a standalone bill or something later on. However, Bernie Sanders and progressives, they're not going to stop. They will continue to push for this increased minimum wage provision. So we will see what happens as we move forward. Another major change that we heard of recently was the change to the $1,400 stimulus checks. Now, the Senate has agreed to provide stimulus checks to those individuals that make less than $75,000 per year in adjusted gross income. Or if you make anywhere between $75,000 and $80,000 per year, you can get a kind of like a modified stimulus check, a reduced stimulus check. So that's good there. Anything over $80,000 as an individual, you would get absolutely nothing. For couples, that limit goes to $150,000 as adjusted gross income. And then from $150,000 to $160,000, if you make anything there, you'd get a reduced stimulus check. Anything over $160,000 as a couple, you would get absolutely nothing, no matter how many children you have. Now, this change was said to have resistance in the House. However, Nancy Pelosi did state that the House has the votes. So as of right now, as soon as this bill makes it to the House, it should pass without any problems, at least according to last reports. There was even an amendment that stipulated that no inmates should receive a $1,400 stimulus check. Right now, this $1.9 trillion stimulus package does include about $1.9 billion in funding to go to inmates for this $1,400 stimulus check. However, Republicans say that an inmate that receives a stimulus check has no purpose for that check because they cannot stimulate the economy. But then Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, he argued that these funds would provide for the inmate's family to provide for the spouse or children so that they don't fall into poverty and they can provide for themselves and be a contributing member to stimulate the economy. This amendment to reject stimulus checks going to inmates was actually rejected 50 to 49. It just fell along party lines. Like I said, Senator Dan Sullivan had to go away for a family emergency. So because of that, the Republicans only had 49 votes. Because of that, many amendments were actually rejected simply because there was no tie. Even Kamala Harris probably would have sided with Democrats as well. Now, major change that the Senate made yesterday. We already discussed this, but I want to bring you a little bit up to speed on what's currently happening. First off, the Senate was at a standstill for over 8 hours yesterday simply because Joe Manchin wanted to see a change in the $400 per week unemployment boost. Well, he got that change. The Senate and the White House have agreed that they will pass unemployment benefits with these following changes. It will go from $400 down to $300 per week. It will go from starting March 15th, go all the way, not until August 29th, which was originally proposed. It will go all the way to September 6th. This additional week will prevent Congress from being on recess during the unemployment cliff. This was something that Congress went through multiple times in 2020. They do not want this to happen again. Also, there's a group of Columbia researchers that predict that this drop in income from $400 down to $300, this would keep the official poverty rate and it will drop it from 12.3% down to 8.3%. But there's also reports that say that this is an increase from previous projections because we are going from $400 per week down to only $300. So we also know that there's a lot of people that don't support the $400 down to $300, and these are mainly people in the House. However, we will see what happens there. The good news right now about this agreement is that this entire bill was set to fall apart if the unemployment boost wasn't agreed upon. So now this has been agreed upon, we should be good to go. The bad news, though, is that many experts predict that this bill is coming in too late for some subsets of unemployed individuals. And what I mean by this is some people will probably have to go through a multi-week gap with no unemployment benefits. Now, it will be a retroactive pay, so even though they won't get it, let's say from March 15th through maybe the end of March, they will still get the money. It's just going to be a gap or a lapse in benefits for about 2 to 3 weeks while the states fix their systems. Now, again, this has to be done. This is something that we see every time there's an extension of unemployment benefits, especially when we come down to the last week. But this is something that we will most likely see. So right now, we know that the House will take up this bill this coming week. The House is scheduled to have votes every single day this week. So hopefully the bill goes up for a vote possibly Monday or Tuesday. If this happens, then we could see President Biden sign this into law possibly Tuesday or Wednesday, which would be 4 to 5 days ahead of schedule. The Congress has never really been ahead of schedule anytime during this pandemic. So this would be a first, which would be very, very good news, I think, for millions of people. If this happens, then we could potentially see a stimulus check hitting our bank accounts as soon as within the next 10 to 15 days. This is big. And I say this is big because if we see stimulus checks hitting our bank accounts, let's say by, we'll just throw it out there, let's just say by March 22nd, 23rd, which is what a lot of people are predicting, if we see this, that's great news. But what we could see is if President Biden signs this, let's say in the next 4 days, we could see stimulus checks hitting our bank accounts by March 12th. Okay, that is like in what, a week? Okay, that is a little bit over a week. So that is really good, or a little bit less than a week. That is really good news. And Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said she will send out stimulus checks as quickly as possible. They will come out within days of the bill passing. So that is really good news there. What I can tell you is that this bill passing, even though it passed through the House first, then it went to the Senate, had a bunch of issues. They provided a bunch of amendments. They pulled out $15 minimum wage provision, added a few other things in. What I can tell you is, even though it passed through the Senate, it's not a slam dunk in the House yet. Remember, the House lost 2 votes when they voted last week. So when they voted last week, they lost 2 Democratic votes. Well, the problem is the Democrats can only lose 6 votes. If they lose 6, or actually they can only lose 5 votes. If they lose 6 votes, that will then mean Republicans will get the majority and this bill will not pass through the House. So then it would have to go back to the drawing board. So right now, I just want to be 100% clear. Even though this passed through the Senate, there's still an issue in the House. Nancy Pelosi says she has the votes. But again, until the House actually sees the updated Senate's version of the bill, we just don't know. So my guess is the House or members of the House will go through this bill, hopefully today, tomorrow, and by Monday they are ready to go. But as we know more, I promise I will fill you in on those updates. Now, in other news, I just want to put some of this news out there because there's a lot of questions about this. So here's kind of where we're at. Many Americans are worried about getting the COVID vaccine, and they are not worried because they are worried that the vaccine is just going to kill them. That's not what they're worried about. What they're worried about right now, according to many reports, is they are worried because they can't afford to take time off to go and get the vaccine. They cannot take an hour off of work because they don't have, let's say, paid time off. So their employer doesn't offer that, so they pretty much have to take a pay cut to go and get this vaccine. And let's say it takes an hour or 2 hours to get this, well, there's an issue. They cannot afford to waste 1 to 2 hours of their own time without getting paid for it. That's becoming a problem. Some say they don't have quick access to a vaccination center, so because of that, they don't feel like taking time off work, driving a couple hours to a vaccine center, coming back, and then losing a complete day simply because they need to drive to go get it. So here's the problem. The problem right now is the Senate needs, or Congress needs, to provide more funding. Until this bill passes, there's no additional funding to open up more vaccination centers. Because of that, this is one of the reasons why, according to reports, we are seeing a slow in vaccines. Even though we should be picking up the numbers, they're coming up and they're decent, they're pretty drastic increases. However, according to reports, they're saying that we could see a double or triple the numbers per day once we receive the funding. So this would be very good news, and this is one of the reasons why Democrats are pushing for this $1.9 trillion stimulus package to go through as quickly as possible. Also, many mayors have decided to reject the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And this is most notably done by the mayor of Detroit, one of the largest cities as of right now, who's rejecting this because he is saying that he does not want the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. He would like to have the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine because it has a higher efficacy rate. This is something that we could see come through multiple times. There could be a bunch of people that reject this and say, no, I don't want that one. Okay, that's great. You know what? I'm glad you have it, but give that to the next guy. I'm going to take the Pfizer or Moderna because if I'm going to get a vaccine, I'm going to get the best one possible. But what experts are saying, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you get Pfizer's, Moderna's, you get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. As long as you get the vaccine, you should be good. So that's what we're hearing right now, but I just want to warn you, this is something that we could see a lot of issues about because some are saying that no, they don't even want to accept a shipment of this vaccine because they want the other one that has a higher efficacy rate. So that's kind of what we're hearing right now, but as always, everything looks great as of right now. But things could change in an instant. So, as always, as I always tell you, I will keep you updated on everything that's going on. I just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I might do an update later on tonight. I don't plan on doing 3 stimulus update videos, especially right now when there's really going to be no news. Unless there's breaking news that comes out, I just highly doubt it. So, I might do another one later on tonight. I will be doing some different videos from now on. So, again, make sure you guys follow me. Make sure you go ahead and like this video and subscribe so you can keep getting all my updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys on the next one.